Hello and welcome to the TMC Newsroom. My name is Rich Tehrani. Thanks for watching us today. Today on our program is Michael Patterson, the product manager and CEO of Plixer International. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So let's start at the top. Tell us a little bit about Plixer.
Plixer International is a company that focuses on NetFlow collection, NetFlow reporting, and it's pretty much the core of our business. It's all we do, really.
Okay, and so in terms of how you're helping your customers, how does what your company does or what you guys do help your customers?
We help our customers by allowing them to find out, especially on their wide area connections, what types of applications are most prevalent on their wide area connections, what the top users are within those applications. And if they see an application that maybe doesn't need to be there, or a particular traffic pattern that looks really strange, they can drill in, find out who it is, what application they're using, how often they're doing it, and if it's a backup or something like that, we can ask them to do it off hours. Once in a while it's abuse, and they can talk to the employee. But most of the time it's the tools used to optimize existing network infrastructure so that they don't have to necessarily buy more hardware all the time.
And it's not just hardware, right? There are other things that you can help your customers save money on. Bandwidth, I've heard.
Yeah, we helped a hospital down in southern Maine that had several expensive internet connections, and through the use of our tool, they were able to find out that basically very underutilized, and they were, through support of the extra lines that they dropped and savings, they were able to recover about $80,000 a year.
Now, let's go through the product line of what your products are and how they specifically solve problems.
Sure. The primary product is Scrutinizer, NetFlow, and SFlow Analyzer. It's also used for IPFix, NetStream, and technology from Juniper called JFlow. And so what it does is you install the software on a computer server, and it passively listens for this stream of data coming in from your routers and switches, and provides a summary report on your top applications, your busiest interfaces, and if you see something that you're curious about, maybe you see a tremendous amount of traffic for an extended period of time, you can drill in on that, find out maybe what application it is, or what particular user it is that's consuming all that bandwidth. And a lot of times it's work-related, but it's interesting to find out if you see a history of this where it's just always congested and there is no traffic that can be cleaned up or removed, then maybe it's time to buy more bandwidth or faster hardware in order to regain some performance.
Now, we also talked about recently a situation where companies sometimes run out of licenses for codecs that have good levels of compression, right? And
correct.
Your product helped in at least one situation where that happened.
Yes. Depending on the equipment that you have that's exporting NetFlow or IPFix, some equipment gives more detail like Cisco or an Nbox. And the type of flow information we were able to get for this particular customer was able to find out that sometimes during the day people would experience degradation even on internal phone calls. And what we had found out was they had only bought so many licenses of the codec that they wanted to use. And when all the licenses were used up by an active 50 calls or 60 calls, what would happen is the phones would use the free codec 711, G711. And when that happened, the codec would use 3 times as much bandwidth, and the call quality would go down. And so we were able to show how often they run out of licenses and what codecs were being used. And they were able to basically, it was a simple fix, just buy more licenses of codec and basically solve the issue.
Now, your company has a focus on NetFlow, and that makes you quite different from many other companies out there that are focusing on network traffic analysis, right?
It does, yes. We're focused on just NetFlow, IPFix, and related flow technologies.
So where you sit inside the network gives you what sort of advantages in terms of, it's probably complicated for someone who's looking to make sure their network is running optimally. Why would they choose your solution, your company, the way you focus over, let's say, a more generalized solution?
That's a problem or a question that we face frequently, and you know, you could go with a product from one of our competitors that happens to provide the whole kit and caboodle, jack of all trades, SNMP monitoring, syslogs, some NetFlow, pinging all your devices, monitoring all the processes on your servers, Linux, Windows, and they basically have the unicenter, if you will, of monitoring everything on your network. We focus on just NetFlow, and our strategy is kind of like Starbucks. We want to make a great cup of coffee. We want to make a great NetFlow analyzer. So for the consumer who realizes that the tool from the jack of all trades isn't necessarily doing what they want, they can get a tool like ours that's very highly specialized, very detailed reports, a lot more information, more depth, more features, functionality, better reporting, more extensive reporting. Then they will look at Plixer for more of a best-of-breed solution for flow analysis.
Now, your company is located in Maine, which is unusual for tech companies.
Yes.
Most of the tech companies that I happen to work with or interview, I guess they come from Texas, Silicon Valley, Massachusetts. I mean, those are some of the hotbeds.
They are. They are certainly the hotbeds. And in this day and age, I remember reading something from Forrester a while ago that in 5 years they're forecasting that 50% of the workforce in the United States will be remote. And I think that's a little aggressive. But to answer your question, our employees are not necessarily all from Maine and surrounding towns. We have employees in Miami. We have employees full-time in Research Triangle Park down in North Carolina. We have employees in Turkey, the country of Turkey. Very talented, very highly specialized people that focus on flow technologies and optimizing flow reporting in the way that we want to deliver to our customers. So we are in Maine, yes.
So on a related question, a follow-up to the one I asked a moment ago, how you compete, I'm curious about third-party utilities and how you would integrate with other, let's say, similar type products or complementary type products.
We put a lot of hooks in our tool. It's largely URL-based, and you can pass parameters into URLs. So if you went into a third-party tool like HP OpenView or SNMPC or WhatsUp or something, you can actually launch our application passing parameters like the IP address and the interface of the router. And that way, if you're coming from another tool, we will bring up specifically the router you asked for and the interface you asked for and the specific report that you wanted. And so the integration, we designed that right from the very, very beginning. And so the integration between our tool and other tools has been easy. I think that's partially why companies like SonicWall have picked us up as an OEM.
Now, there's been an unbelievable just proliferation of mobile devices, tablets, smartphones that are coming to the office with workers, whether they're paid for by the company or not, and they are getting on corporate networks. And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how your recent experience with this in your own company and what you've seen your product do to allow you to see what these mobile devices are actually doing on the networks.
Yes, the mobile devices, these employees are basically using them for work-related events like meetings. They want to take notes on them. And so what you can do is a lot of vendors out there are exporting MAC address in the IP fix or NetFlow from your routers and switches. And so these, since everything or most everything that's user-based is DHCP, what you can do with getting the MAC address from these devices is we can filter on vendor ID. So we can add the first 3 octets of the MAC address for several different vendors. for Androids and iPhones. And then what we can do by adding these filters to our tool, then we can display just the iPhones on the network, or the Androids, or a combination. And then we can look at the top domains that they're visiting. And in our case, we found that there was a lot of traffic to iTunes and Facebook. And from there, you can make a decision to talk to these people and say, hey, please be careful about using company resources. Or you can block the sites, which isn't always the best strategy. But you can at least become aware of it, make the employees aware of it, that this is a thing that the company allows employees to do with their handhelds, but to remember not to abuse it.
Especially now with iOS 5, you've got the iCloud application built in, and you've got the wireless operating system updates, which you can do. I think the most recent one is 40 or 45 meg, which if you've got thousands of devices or tens of thousands of Apple devices all uploading over the air, or let's say Android devices, I mean, you're talking about a network that just could get slammed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All at once with let's say thousands or tens of thousands of iOS updates.
Guaranteed.
At the same time.
Guaranteed. If someone downloads our tool even just for an evaluation, starts looking at the traffic, run a filter on iTunes or Facebook, and just look at the volume of IP addresses hitting these sites and the amount of data that's transferring, and then filter on a particular host and see what else they do during the day. Is it largely a Facebook or YouTube? And find out and categorize these people, put them in filters or whatever, so that you can observe them over time, and see how it's impacting your voice traffic or your Salesforce.com traffic.
Or video, right? I mean,
Or
we've got
video,
more and
yeah.
more cloud apps.
Yes. There's certainly, from every employee on the network, there's a certain amount of personal use of the company resources. And I think the companies that monitor it and make sure that the employees know that it's being monitored are the companies that have the employees that are responsible about how often they do it and how much of it they do.
Now, getting back to specific products, are there new launches, new releases, anything we should know about for the future?
Yes, we are working on a release for January, and with some new features. Worked extensively with Cisco for some new flow technologies. Exciting stuff in the area of threat detection, or smart logging and telemetry. Also the Cisco TrustSec. And we were the first vendor, and we've also added some more reports for MediaNet, which is basically monitoring voice on your network, which is traditionally not, NetFlow is not a medium that's used to monitor voice, but Cisco is adding jitter and packet loss per phone call. So now you can get details on which phones are experiencing the most jitter, the most packet loss, and or which TCP connections are experiencing the most latency during the day. Is it always the same servers that are seeing the most latency? So that performance type data, not just how much bandwidth is being consumed, but what's the user experience in terms of latency.
It's great, very useful.
Very useful, and definitely where the NetFlow technology is moving.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being on the program. This was
Thank you
great.
for having me.